Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Thursday evening of the Sports Crib, home of the Sports Crib Network. As you can see, I have my little ham here next to me. For some reason, it seems like he wants to get on the show tonight, but let's get all of our commercial responsibilities out of the way, along with our disclaimer that the views expressed here on the Sports Crib are strictly those of the participants, and we are by no means trying to infringe upon the rights or the the rights of others. So, with that being said, I am James E. King III. You can find me on Facebook on both of those pages. As a matter of fact, you can find our live broadcast right now on our Twitter feed. We are known as West Coast Steeler Fan, also at the Sports Crib, and you can subscribe and donate on our YouTube channel, also under James E. King 3. And all proceeds go to our programming. So, with all that being said, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the sports world. Right now, to catch everything up, let's see, it is 7-0 49ers, 2nd and 4, and Purdy has just completed another pass. So, with that being said, looks like it's going to be a long night for Geno Smith and the Seahawks. But, stranger things have happened in the second half of some games, so we shall see. Now, a lot of strange things going on this week. And we're definitely going to talk about some of the things that Aaron Rodgers had to say and about some of the drugs that he has admitted to being on. Also, we're going to talk as soon as the other panelists come on. We're going to talk about Mike Leach, of course, his sudden passing, and just trying to. Okay. Okay. um, I am expecting both Bill and Don to come through. Talk to Don about his Longhorns and their season, of course. But as I was saying, the sudden passing of Mr. Mike Leach, Coach Mike Leach, due to complications from heart problems at the age of 61. Uh, Very colorful man, very colorful career, and he's going to be sorely missed. And the whole Mississippi State program is going to miss not only his comic humor, but you have to remember he's also made some innovations into coaching. Uh, Pretty a little hurried then. 3rd and 9 on. I think they're in field goal range now. Maybe not. Nope, not quite in field goal range yet. Also, uh, we'll also do a little bit more talking about uh, uh, some of the things that are coming out as to the huge cost that UCLA had to spend in order for it to join the Big Ten. Of course, uh, USC, being a private school, did not have to go through such changes, but it should set up the University of Berkeley uh, sports program for quite some time. And it it's ironic that this money goes to the University of California at Berkeley when a few months ago I was just talking about uh, the amount of money that is going to the University of California at Berkeley, uh, as opposed to the amount of money that we think of going into academic programs at the same school. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a change there. There's also been some changes in the NBA. They're going to change some awards. They're going to rename some of the awards, and I'm wondering what our panel is going to think of that. Of course, the MVP has now been changed to the Jordan Award, and that when Jokic won it last year, he will. It will be retroactive to last year, so he will have the Jordan Award. The Defensive Player of the Year will be the Hakeem Olajuwon Trophy. The Rookie of the Year will be the Wilt Chamberlain Trophy. Sixth Man of the Year, the John Havlicek Trophy. Most Improved Player. Wrong link. Okay. Uh, I've grown to expect any time. No, I'm not gonna ridicule the officers of our. Anyway, we'll see how that works out. Uh, uh, it's like you ever think that sometimes there's gremlins in your computer and you wonder why. And by the way, there's going to be a new Clutch Man of the Year award that's going to be named after Jerry West. Uh, I'm going to be kind of curious about how what's going to be the uh, uh, guidelines for the new Clutch Man of the Year. Uh, and are these, does this, uh, once again, should the Clutch Man of the Year, should, okay, I think, uh, not sure. Something is really screwing up here. Okay. And there's something definitely wrong. Let me try this again. Uh, sorry. Okay. Okay. I see. Bill is here, so we'll. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hope all is well.
Yeah. Hey, every day above ground is a good day.
Indeed,
It's
indeed.
it's finally warmed up a little out here in the West Coast, so uh, no more rain, and things look good up here, even in Seattle. So I'm guessing that the weather is very good here. I'm not sure how are things there in Chicago.
Sleet. Um,
Oh, just the
eventually,
usual.
yes,
Just the usual.
exactly.
Just the usual.
The ever popular wintry mix, sleet, snow, freezing rain. Those ever popular three.
Okay, well, I see Mr. Hayes is there also. I'm not sure what the weather's like down there in Texas, but our world traveler, this is Don's first week back on the show since he came back from Israel. So I'm not sure, how much he misses that weather, but I'm not quite sure if the weather in uh, San Antonio and Jerusalem are the same right now.
And did you get to Haifa and Tel Aviv as well?
Yes, I flew into Tel Aviv. It was a nice little city, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. So,
And if you're into dancing, they have some great discos there, Don.
well, I was there with my church, so.
Oh, okay. So probably not so much with the nightlife. Okay,
but we're not Baptists, so we I guess we could dance.
uh, well, so how was your trip to the Holy Land there, Don? I know you are a man of great faith. So did it change any of your perspective? Probably actually, going visiting some of the places that you read about in the Bible or hear about, in different publications and whatnot.
Yeah, it did. Because growing up and reading scripture and reading about these places, but when you actually go there, your mind's kind of blown. Like, where Christ was crucified. In the movies, it seemed like they took him off the cross and carried him across the city and buried him. No, they took him about 50 yards and put him in the tomb there. That was kind of amazing. The Sea of Galilee was a lot bigger than I thought it would be. I thought it was the size of like maybe Canyon Lake, but no, it's actually pretty big.
They call it the sea.
Well, yeah. And the Dead Sea is very dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's saltier than the Great Salt Lake, right?
Oh yeah. It's my son was doing sit-ups while on his back, because you can't float, you can't sink. If you drown in the Dead Sea, you got some weights on you probably.
Oh man, so that's now Don. Did you see any of? Was it different seeing the local Israeli troops walking around the city, or I mean, I'm sure all of that was, since they advertised as citizens being part of the military. Was there a lot of security? Did you
Oh
see?
yeah, it was nice, and actually talked to some of the IDF guys and girls.
Yep.
There's some hot Israeli women in that
Well,
military.
Gail Godot was. I think she
Yeah.
was a tanker. But yeah, she was in.
I was like, wow. I got to go to the Western Wall, and when you go there, you have to wear a yarmulke. So I actually brought home a yarmulke in case everyone identify as Jewish.
Okay.
So yeah, but, went to the great mosque at the Temple Mount. That was a beautiful building, probably one of the most elaborate looking buildings I've ever seen. It was nice. I mean, it was.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's always good to get out and see other parts of the world and how other people live and experience different cultures and whatnot. But
Even Bethlehem was not. I mean, Bethlehem was pretty awesome. I saw the place, the Valley of the Shadow of Death, out in the Judean desert. That was. You read about it in the 23rd Psalm, but you don't realize it's a place. It's an actual place. So.
I thought I thought it was the Aisha Valley. You taught me something new. but anyway, so kind of getting back into the show, we have the sudden death of Coach Mike Leach.
Yep.
Don, you might be most familiar with the workings of Mike Leach and the different influences that he had upon college football. So, what are your memories or thoughts of Coach Leach?
Well, Mike Leach was like indescribable. I mean, he was so damn funny in his press conferences. The guy was a walking encyclopedia. He kind of reminds me of a guy named Bill Carroll. We know. I mean, he could go on any topic. Probably knew the middle name of Blackbeard the Pirate. Who knows?
I guarantee he knew that, and he knew the names of all of his various wives. I bet you.
Oh yeah. I mean, he just rattled all stuff. Talking about. He's coming off a football field and they're interviewing him. They ask him what his favorite candy is. And he goes off on gummy bears and giving marriage advice. But the guy was a genius. I mean, he was one of those kind of probably on the spectrum, I think, but definitely a different guy. And he just, I was always disappointed that Texas Tech fired him over, Adam James's.
Yes, of all things.
Adam
James.
And Tech has been cursed ever since. They've just haven't been the same. And I have a lot of family members who went to Tech. I have friends who went to Tech, and I've yet to meet a Tech fan who thinks Mike Leach should have been fired. They all hate the AD, the board of regents at Tech. They all hate him. Yeah. But Mike Leach, a lot of people don't realize that he got his nickname the Pirate because of the Aggies. It's like Texas A&M has this corps of cadets, and they're dressed in like World War 1941 type military uniforms, with the boots and the Ike jackets and all that. Anyway,
God furs, Sam Brown belt, the whole deal. Yeah.
And Mike goes, why do they get to pretend like they're soldiers? They're not in the Army. He goes, they're not real soldiers. They're marching around. He goes, maybe I should call myself a pirate. And maybe because I can make my freshmen wear red bandanas, my sophomores blue bandanas, and on. And he goes, we're going to have a ship. And so that's how he got his name, the Pirate, because of Texas A&M and their weird-ass ways. But anyway, so I'm going to miss Mike Leach. When I found out he had died, I I went straight to YouTube and just watched about 2 hours worth of Mike Leach YouTube videos. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it.
Bill, what were your thoughts of Coach Leach?
So I first became acquainted with him when he was on the staff at BYU. And then he made what most people would have considered a strange change of direction in his career. First of all, he had lots of strange change of direction in his career, period. A lawyer by training who didn't play college football at all, not a single down. So I've played more college football than Mike Leach, which is not saying much, but was a lacrosse guy. No, rugby guy. And fell in love with the game through breaking it down, through sort of, and he mentioned, maybe he had Asperger's, who knows? I don't know. But he certainly sees things differently from most people, I think it'd be fair to say. And sort of a combination of like Don Rickles, Mark Twain, and like if you took a blender and put like Bill Walsh, Mark Twain, and Don Rickles in the blender, and you poured whatever came out and drank it, you'd be drinking a smoothie that was essentially Mike Leach. He loved football and gave himself to football, but never took football seriously. Never believed in its unwritten rules and never believed that football is this thing that's sacred cow or any of that stuff. He follows Hal Mummy to Iowa Wesleyan, of all places. And they had a little receiver named Dana Holgerson, who, when he graduated, stayed on as a graduate assistant and eventually wide receivers coach. And those three brains connecting together at Iowa Wesleyan, of all places, they basically cooked up what we now call air raid. And Hal Mummy, always, still to this day, he's still alive, defends air raid because a lot of people talk about it. Now, as it's sort of taken over college football, you hear fewer people like taking pot shots at it. But he said it's basically West Coast offense, just stretched, right? We get rid of the fullback, sometimes get rid of the tight end even, and widen out the line splits, and just make you defend every blade of grass, as they say, right? Every blade of grass. There's no place on the field that you are safe. That's what it's all built around. And that really fits into the mind of Mike Leach. And one of the things that Mike Leach had on his Twitter page is a great quote from Sun Tzu. He read extensively. I think would be putting it mildly. I mean, he used to joke around, if you want to get a good conversation out of Bill Belichick, ask him about punt coverage. And like, now you've made a friend. Talk to Mike Leach about, Caribbean maritime law of the late 17th century. And it'll never end. It'll never end. You will never hear the end of it. You may never get around to talking football ever again with him. But Sun Tzu quote is, attack where your enemy is not, avoid your enemy where he is strong, right? There it is. That's his entire philosophy of football, basically, right? Avoid your enemy where he's strong, attack him where he is not.
Yeah.
And my last thing is my favorite. I have a lot of Mike Leach stories and things, but my favorite is the fake call sheet story from 1999.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know this. I know you know this.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The reason that they bought it is because it was so good, right? I mean, it wasn't some trash. It was like this. They looked at this call sheet. It was beautifully detailed. The plays would have definitely worked. They were great plays. It's like there's no way somebody's going to put this much work into a fake. This has got to be the real thing, except if it's Mike Leach. Mike Leach would spend 6 days working on a fake call sheet to casually leave someplace to be found. And once again, Sun Tzu, right? Is there a better use of his beliefs about football and life than that crazy fake call sheet story? I love it. He'll be missed.
Bill, he actually taught a class at Washington State. It was how to conduct an insurgency or something like that.
Right, exactly.
And,
it was something like football and the art of counterinsurgency or something like that. But that was his whole approach to football, right? It was essentially looking at how you would disrupt a stronger opponent, right? And like I said, everything about him, oh my God, we're really going to miss him because most football coaches are football coaches. And that's not to cast aspersions on football coaches, but as a journalist, you could write the quotes before you walk into the press conference. If it's a losing coach, there's a bunch of stuff about how hard the boys fought or guys fought or whatever. How it was just a couple plays that turned the game. Oh, we get a tip ball here. I mean, you don't need to be there. I could stay home and write the whole thing. Except Mike Leach. You've got to be at the press conference of Mike Leach. That's must see. I would pay. Oh my God! I would pay to cover Mike Leach press conference if there was a
Bill. Let's move on, Bill.
Yes, let's move on.
Okay, all right. Because there's something here that I don't understand, and maybe I'm sure you can explain it to me. And this is like what happened with UCLA, because UCLA has been cleared by the California Board of Regents to join the Big Ten, but it's going to have to pay the University of California at Berkeley somewhere between $2 and $10 million per year. Now, what I don't understand, number one, is how long does this last? Does this last as long as UCLA is in the Big Ten? And what about the other programs that in UCLA, like the volleyball program, the softball programs? What about those programs? Do they get to move along under the same payment plan?
My guess is no. Football is its own world, as you already know, Mr. King, and Don can back me up on this. To quote Reggie Jackson, or sort of paraphrase Reggie Jackson, college football, at least amongst college athletics, is the straw that stirs the drink. So it's essentially a loss of value claim, right? If you're familiar with that in sort of legal terms. So UCLA has essentially damaged, for lack of a way of putting it, their partner, which is another member of the University of California's system, their partner in football, for lack of a better way of putting it. So by leaving, not only do they deprive them of an opponent, obviously, but think of all the things that are associated with the game: parking, concessions.
But see, Bill, when a couple months ago, as you know, I got the Monday show, and I was talking to some kids at Cal Berkeley, and it seems like Cal Berkeley, when we were talking, like this mainly boosts the baseball program at Cal Berkeley.
Well, and once again, I haven't looked through the entire agreement, but football is the thing that moves the needle. But it doesn't affect swimming. Affects everything. You're right. The loss of UCLA affects everything. But the television money and all the other. I mean, I'm sure people watch college baseball on television too, but right. I mean, it's not the same. When you pull out of this conference, that they're one of the linchpins of the conference. USC is private; they're a private school,
right? So, they didn't have to worry about that.
Correct, right? Because they're a private school, they don't have the same connection to Cal Berkeley that UCLA does. So by severing, or whatever term I'm going to use, this relationship, it deprives them of a bunch of assets that they had invested in them playing each other in, as you said, a long list of sports, from everything from wrestling, fencing, a million different sports. But the one that generates the income is football, right? So when they negotiated, and this is a negotiation, right? I'm sure somebody said, we want X amount, and UCLA says, no, we'll give you X amount, and then eventually they met somewhere in the middle. I'm assuming. I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm guessing it works like other negotiations. That somebody asked for the moon and the stars, and somebody said, "No, I'll give you this tomato can," and they met somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it just when they said at 2 million to 10 million per year, I was just wondering, like I said, how long does that last? Don, big news for you over the holidays. Texas has made it to another bowl game. Uh, how? What are your aspirations? Well, what did you think about the season, so forth and so on?
Well, at the beginning of the year, I thought Texas would be good for about 8 or 9 wins. They got 8, so that's after last season. That's considered success. I'm happy that Texas, had the season they did. They, like I said, there's an improvement from last year, but when you look back at it, they still blew leads that cost them. They lost to Tech after having a 2-digit lead. They lost to OSU, Oklahoma State, after having a two-digit lead. So things like that. Now, TCU, that was just a defensive struggle, but Sark, in that game, he stopped giving the ball to Bijan, and that's one of the better players in the nation. A few weeks later against Baylor, he needs to put the game away. Does he give it to Quinn Ewers? No, he doesn't. He ran the ball 20 straight times to close that game against Baylor. And as a Longhorn fan, you're like, well, why did you do that against Oklahoma State? Oklahoma State's defense is worse than Baylor's. But you can't change history. But I guess I'm being nitpicky. But right now, Texas is doing very good recruiting. They just got a commitment from the number 1 linebacker in the nation, a guy named Anthony Hill, out of Denton, Texas. He had originally been committed to A&M, but he decommitted and is committed to us this evening. So, recruiting is going well. They're going to be, I think, a much better team next year. They got rid of some guys that in the portal that they'll have to replace. I am kind of concerned that they got rid of Hudson Card, because I thought Hudson Card played outstanding this year, better than Ewers, actually. But, Ewers is Sark's ride or die guy right now until Arch Manning gets on campus. So I'm optimistic about the future of the season. I got my tickets to Alamo Bowl. I'll go watch them play the Huskies, and that'll be a fun game to watch.
And your impending move?
Oh, it's a SEC?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some rumors that it might be accelerated. They were talking about 2005. I'm sorry, 20. What year am I in? 2025. The others say probably 2024, so a year earlier than expected. So we'll see if that happens.
Bill, what were you thinking about the bowl games? Some of the teams out here in the West, when we were talking about the Western Conference, Oregon, UCLA, of course, have all managed to make it to bowls. Maybe not major bowls, but at least good showings, especially for UCLA and USC as they make their move into the Big Ten, as we just talked about.
Right. Oregon State, I think, had a season that some people weren't expecting. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Smith, who I remember as a player, right? He was the guy who was throwing the ball to TJ Houshmandzadeh and Chad Ochocinco, who was still Chad Johnson back in the day. And I think, what was that? They had was it Steven Jackson? I think might have been there at least 1 year with them as well. They had a pretty nice, but he's got Oregon State, I think, pointed in the right direction. So the Pac-12, even though they're about to lose, the two of the headliners, and of course, the Los Angeles market, probably even more importantly, right? The Los Angeles media market is the second largest one in the United States. So that's going to hurt. But the conference is going to right itself. They're going to add, like everyone else, going to add teams, and they'll get it rolling. They'll keep it rolling. If I were them, I would have made a call to Fresno State already. We'll see what ends up happening there going forward. But I'm a big fan of some of the younger programs, and I'm going to be watching the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. That rolls right off the tongue. As Florida takes on Oregon State, and Florida, of course, has a lot of people's sort of sexy dark horse first round quarterback in AR-15, Anthony Richardson, who will not be playing, but he's going to be he'll be much discussed in the draft process. Osiris Torrance, their best offensive lineman, the guard, is also sitting that game out to, protect his draft stock or however you want to put it. But it's going to be interesting to see. Jack Miller III will get his first career start. Also, they dismissed Jalen Kitna, and yes, that is the son of John Kitna, as crazy as that seems. So they don't have a lot of experience left in the quarterback room with, somebody preparing for the draft. And I guess Jalen Kitna is going to hit the portal since he's been dismissed from the team. So they've really got one quarterback who's really gotten a decent number of practice snaps. But shout out to the aforementioned Jonathan Smith, who was going to be there for a good long time. It looks like he just got a new 6-year deal. And I think, like I say, has his program heading in the right direction.
Let's see. We got 28 seconds left. The score is 14-3 in favor of the 49ers. Brock Purdy seems to be keeping up his past performance, looking very decent tonight. Not really forcing anything, looking pretty good. Seems to be a really tight battle going on here. Kind of reminds me of some of my college days there, Bill. This battle between Metcalf here is just like all hands on deck. Don, one thing I wanted to ask you, Texas has always had its own network. How does this fit in with the SEC network? Is Texas still maintaining its network rights to the Texas network, or what?
No, the Longhorn Network will be history once they enter the SEC. It'll merge. The studios will merge with the SEC ESPN deal. Texas will still have lots of coverage. I mean, they are Texas, and they're going to keep the studios in Austin. They do have a studio space, so they'll just slip into the SEC network, and you can rest assured that every Texas game will be televised somewhere.
Okay, let's get off a couple bowl game predictions right quick. Don, Tennessee versus Clemson in the Orange Bowl. Who you got?
Ooh, the Battle of the Bright Oranges.
That should be a colorful halftime show there, right?
Tennessee's quarterback is out, right?
Yeah, Hendon Hooker blew out an ACL late in the year.
So I'm going to go with that freshman Cade Kubnek from Clemson, young man at Austin Westlake High School, which probably produces as many NFL players as any school in Texas. So I'll go with Clemson.
Who you got, Bill?
I also have Clemson, and I might have even picked them even if Hooker was healthy. I think that Clemson's defensive and offensive line are more consistently good than Tennessee's. But yeah, once you add in the loss of Hendon Hooker, who was at one point the Heisman Trophy favorite, it's difficult to pick against Clemson.
Bill, the Rose Bowl, Utah versus Penn State.
That should be an interesting game. I'm going to go with Utah for two reasons. One, their quarterback is not Sean Clifford. And two, I really think that they have one of the better defenses in the country. Not so much in terms of yardage, right? They give up plenty of yardage, but they really do a good job usually in the red zone of sort of stiffening up, right? And they can get pressure without blitzing. And they have a really good defensive coordinator who's really smart. And Penn State doesn't have a dynamic enough series. Like they can do certain things in the passing game, but their passing game is kind of rudimentary. They have a good running attack, but I think Utah will take that away. So I'm going to go with Utah. I think they win it by about 4 points.
Don?
I go Utah. After how they dismantled USC, it's a West Coast game for them. They'll be pumped. Utah is probably one of the more underrated programs in the nation. I like their quarterback, of course, Kim Rising. He had been at Texas at one time. So, I'll go Utah.
The Cotton Bowl, Don. USC against Tulane.
I got to go USC. I think it'll be a great game, and I think Tulane's been a big surprise, but I got to go with the Trojans. And the thing that's crazy about the Cotton Bowl, it just seems weird not having at least one Texas team in it. I mean, that's the Southwest Conference champion was there every year for 50 years.
50 Yep.
At least, Bill, who you got? USC or Tulane?
Yeah, USC. And as Don pointed out, that game's been closer than a lot of people realize. For one, Willie Fritz is a dynamite coach. He was great before he got there. He's still great. If he leaves, he'll still be great. And Michael Pratt is maybe one of the most, if not the most, underrated quarterbacks in college football. Ask Oklahoma about Michael Pratt.
Bill, the Sugar Bowl, Alabama versus Kansas State.
This is going to be a tight game, too. People think it's going to be a blowout. Those people are wrong. I don't know how to tell you this. If you're thinking it's going to be a blowout, you're just flat out wrong. I'm not saying that Alabama won't maybe pull away towards the end, but they're not going to enjoy this game at all. Chris Kleinman, speaking of great coaches, he gets a lot of 2- and 3-star kids. That's a 2.5-star program, basically, and develops the heck out of them. They're coached so well. Alabama squeaks it out, I think, but like I said, if you're thinking maybe they pull away in 10-13 towards the end, but the game's going to be close all the way.
Don?
I go Bama, and I think Nick Saban's going to blow a gasket because it will be close, and he demands perfection. But I'll go Bama by probably 7.
Bill, how much of an impact is the loss of TreVoyan Henderson going to have on the game plan of OSU? I know we call him a wide receiver U, but not having that running game really hurt him against Michigan.
Well, I mean, and I don't know, call me crazy. I don't think it's their best running back. I think Mayan Williams is their best running back. But it hurts their depth at the position, certainly. But they've got running backs. They've got other running backs. I think Ohio State will be okay.
Don, which team do you think has the advantage at the quarterback position? Michigan or TCU?
Ooh. Just because I've seen him play the last 3 years, I'm a big, big believer in Max Duggan. So I think he does a lot. Mm-hmm. He can run. He can throw. He can throw on the run. I mean, so I have to go with Max. That's Duggan.
Yeah, he's a better version of Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, guys. Before we get to the NFL, I just want to mention a couple of things here about the NBA because they've renamed some of their trophies.
Yes.
The Jordan Award has been renamed, and of course, Jokic got it last year, but they'll give him a new trophy with the Jordan uh, emblem, the logo, that all of these have been redesigned. So the MVP will be the Jordan Trophy.
Yep.
The Defensive Player of the Year
Hakeem
will be
Olajuwon.
the Hakeem Olajuwon Trophy. The Rookie of the Year will be the Wilt Chamberlain Trophy. The Sixth Man of the Year will be the John Havlicek
Havlicek.
Trophy.
Yep.
And the Most Improved Player of the Year will be the George Mikan Trophy. Now, there's supposed to be a new Clutch Man of the Year that's going to be named after Jerry
Jerry
West.
West.
I'm trying to figure out, how they're going, how what's going to be the requirements, for this. Is it going to be, pre uh, All Star game, after All Star game? Is because most of these are given out before the champions decided. So, Don, what's your thoughts on the renaming of these trophies?
I like it. It's gonna be kind of funny that, of course, the whole debate. Jordan, LeBron, Jordan, and they named it Jordan. I wonder how LeBron thinks about that. But actually, I don't give a shit what LeBron thinks. So I'm glad it's called the Jordan Trophy. I'm on Team Jordan all the way. So yeah, I think it's great. I think George Mike. I think he's a Longhorn. I think he went to UT. I have to double check that on Google.
No, I'm pretty sure he was a Midwesterner.
Okay.
Bob Curlin went to Oklahoma A&M, which later became Oklahoma State. Mike and I think because didn't they still have the regional draft in those days? So I think he probably went to, if not Minnesota, then someplace like that. Didn't they still have the territorial draft in those days?
I think
I don't know.
Mikan did go to Minnesota. I'm not
I
sure.
think so too.
You can't quote me on it, but I think he did. But uh, the Defensive Player of the Year, the Hakeem Olajuwon, I thought that was uh, Havlicek. I mean, I grew up thinking about, the sixth man was Havlicek. I mean, it was based on Havlicek's game mostly. So I mean, a lot of these game, I'm not sure if a lot of these, youngsters might have to look up some of these names to see who they were. But Bill, what's your thoughts on the renaming of these top awards?
I like the fact that they renamed DePaul. Sorry, it just hit me. He went to DePaul. I know he went to DePaul because I've seen. I mean, I live in Chicago. There's a big thing in their practice facility with like a big plaque with his face on it. He went to DePaul. But back to what we're talking about. I'm a little surprised they didn't manage to find something for Kareem. That's my only sort of issue or question. Is that, of all these things, none of the things. I mean, Kareem won the MVP trophy more than anybody ever. And then Bill Russell, those two guys not having anything. Maybe they should name the or we have
Well, I would have thought that the defensive player would have been either
right.
Bill Russell
I would have gone
or
Russell there, maybe,
yeah.
or maybe the finals MVP, something like that.
But
and
they
yeah,
changed those last year, right? The finals.
Yeah, I think that was last year. And then,
Yeah.
like I said, something, I'd have to find something for Kareem. Like, how can you not find something to name after Kareem? The leading scorer in the history of the sport and the guy who won the MVP trophy more than anybody else ever.
What's the Western Conference final trophy?
Oh, that's a great question there, James.
Because they changed that last year.
Yeah, they changed a bunch of things, but I don't know what it's called now. You got me on that one. I hadn't prepared for that.
Okay. Wow. That's a first. Let's see. Don, December 15th, we stymied Bill. Okay.
I admit I did not remember what the conference MVP trophies are named now. But you're right. They did name them also or rename them or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did do a Google search, for some reason, I thought George Mike went to UT. It was actually Slater Martin that went to UT.
Slater Martin went to UT. Yep.
And they were teammates.
Yes.
Up in Minnesota. So that's where I got confused. So my apologies.
No, it's okay.
Oh.
That was Ray Meyer's first big recruit. In fact, was George Mikan.
Well, guys, let's talk some NFL. It seems that the league is considering rule changes for hitting a defensive player and for roughing the passer. There's more emphasis on ejections and on review. Don, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, because a lot of these plays, especially when it comes to roughing the passer or defensive, well, no, more defensive player, I guess, would be, uh, uh, a bang bang type of play. Now that roughing the passer, I don't. Did anybody see? Was it Sunday? Was it the Rams game Sunday? Where they called the roughing the passer because of the charger, I believe, that sacked him. They said he put his full body weight.
Yes. I hate that rule.
That's yeah. I'm all for player safety, but I don't understand how you sack someone and not land on them. Like, what do they want them to do exactly? Like, grab the quarterback and then fling him into the air and be like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, Don, it used to be that the object of football was to inflict pain. Is it not? Is it now to say hello? I mean, like, excuse me, sir, can I sack you? Left tackle, would you move over a little bit? I need a straight lane to your quarterback. What would happen if you had a Reggie White that would literally like just pick a tackle up and just dump him into the quarterback? Do it? That's not roughing the passer. You didn't hit the passer, right? I mean,
let's look at our show panel, right? James, you're a baby boomer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Bill and I are probably Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we're used to a certain style of play. Okay, we're let's just face it, we're old farts, we're old fogies. This is Gen Z, NFL style Gen Z. Don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Don't want to be offensive. We don't want to hurt the quarterback. We want to, make sure that Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt while he's stoned. I mean, so, this is Gen Z NFL, and it sucks. I'm worried about this generation in whole, just because I say it at school every day, but it's running football.
I mean, Bill, why do you draft a 300+ pound tackle? I mean, a guy 160 pounds that's going to cost you $2 million less would be much more effective, right?
Well, here's what we come to. With the promotion, because originally the NFL tried to squash fantasy football. I know a man named John Finley that was part of one of the original fantasy football leagues, a bunch of bored stockbroker types, right, in New York in the late 1970s. And Pete Rozelle, and I guess it wasn't Rozelle, probably Tagliabue, who I guess was the chief counsel in those days, issued at one point a cease and desist order and told them to, remove any and all mentions of NFL players or NFL teams from their, their, I can't know how they put it, but their services or offerings or whatever term they use, something very legal sounding. And so it took, almost 20 years for the NFL. Well, I'd say probably about 15 years for the NFL to sort of change its stance and end up embracing fantasy football. And now the NFL has its own. I mean, the NFL is in the fantasy football business. They're in the gambling business, and injuries to quarterbacks bring down people's interest in games. Supposedly, I'll watch anybody. I don't, but supposedly brings down interest in games, brings down interest in fantasy, and maybe even hurts some of their gambling partnerships. I don't know. Who knows? But I think they've overreached in attempting to protect quarterbacks. I would say that. I think you should avoid. I'm not saying bring back the days when you could, clothesline them and, lift them up over your head and slam them down on their shoulders. I get why that's not
He
the best.
suited up. He suited up. If he put on a uniform and suited up, whatever happened, in between
I
those.
get what you're saying. I do 100%. But the NFL doesn't want to see, guys like Joe Namath have their careers cut 6-7 years shorter than they probably should have been. Joe Montana's career shut, 3 or 4 years, cut off 3 or 4 years probably before it could have been.
Then get in shape. like Johnny Unitas and all the rest of those guys, even Joe, when you talk about Joe Namath, Joe did enough for him to play the game. That doesn't mean that he didn't have a beard.
Yeah, but that you and I both thought the last couple of years of his career, by the time he got to the Rams, I mean, it was like watching the Mets version of Willie Mays stumbling around the outfield. So the NFL would like to preserve their assets. And they see quarterbacks, particularly franchise quarterbacks, as non-fungible assets. You can't just replace them. So they care more about quarterbacks than they do other players. That has been established. That's
okay. So I'm just going to be the devil's advocate here and throw this up here. Okay. Does anybody remember the movie Concussion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many quarterbacks were a part of that study?
That's an interesting point.
I mean, you have defensive linemen, you have offensive linemen, you have defensive backs. You look at all the defensive side of the ball was affected the most by the concussions.
Right.
So why are you trying? So why are you trying to protect the quarterback? What about all them people in front of him?
Right. I get what you're saying. Now these are two related but separate things. Now we did see both Steve Young and Troy Aikman. Now Steve Young had obviously a fairly nice long career, sort of two careers, one not so good and one good in his time with the 49ers, but concussions ended his career. And then Troy Aikman very famously had something like 5 concussions in something like a year and a half span of time, which is not good for you. From what I have on good authority, we always make jokes about him answering phones that weren't ringing back before we took this stuff as seriously as we do now. So they're not so much concerned, though, like you just said about what the studies by Dr. Bennett Amolu are showing. They're more concerned about the product that changes when you lose your starting quarterback. That's the real story. I mean, they care about health and safety kind of sort of too. But they really care about is the television product and how it suffers when you're suddenly watching, Joe Flacco as opposed to whoever the starter is supposed to be. You're watching, oh
my God. I can't.
What's
George Kittle has moves. Can you believe?
He always has. He's always had moves. What's Mark Rippon's nephew's name again? He'll be starting for the Broncos in the next game.
I know you, but
Brett Rippon.
Yeah.
So they feel like the product suffers when Brett Rippon's out there. Sorry, Brett. I'm sorry to pick on you, but you know what I mean.
But Don, I mean, What's your thoughts here? Like I said, it would seem to me that most of these injuries occur on the line, and those aren't really the people that you're trying to protect. I understand, that where Bill is talking about, okay, you got to put a product out there on the field, but the product's been out there. Just soft me. I mean, I don't know what to say here, Don.
Yeah, they the quarterback will always get the benefit of the doubt. He'll get the protection. But you're right. The concussed, it's a lot of them are linemen, linebackers, DBs. I think probably receivers, running backs are more concussed than quarterbacks. I mean, it's just the nature of the game. But I'm thinking, with all these new rules and all that, guys like Dick Butkus and Lawrence Taylor, Jack Lambert. I mean, these guys would have never played because they keep getting fined for targeting or whatever.
Imagine what Chuck Bednarik would have to pay in fines each year.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so what was the offer? The Conrad
Dobler. Well, he was an offensive lineman. But
I know, but I mean, come on now. So he's offensive in his case could be taken quite literally.
Oh yeah, Conrad Dobler would do unspeakable things to you in the pile. Unspeakable things, Jay. I mean, I don't know if it's late enough after dark to talk about the kind of things that Conrad Dobler was known to do to people.
Yeah, I mean,
y'all ever read his book?
No,
that was a very good read. It took me about I read it in 2 days. Usually I get a book and I read a chapter, set it down, read a chapter. It takes me about a week. This book, I will read one more chapter. I get one more chapter. I love that. I mean,
he was incredibly honest.
Don, Coach owner Jim Irsay says he needs that he's not quite ready to get rid of Dan Snyder. He says he needs a little more information. Don, I mean, maybe you could read the congressional report. I mean, what's your thoughts here, Don? I mean, does he actually have to see the smoking gun? I mean, the gun's there. Snyder's fingerprints are all over it. I mean,
well, Snyder's had a very big target on him for a long time. But yeah, the NFL. The one thing you can say about the NFL, they're not very consistent. They move real fast in one direction and very slow in another direction, depending on what's involved. They probably have some guys in the back room saying, what's going to be the overall cost of if we take such and such action? Because everything is driven by the money. But, yeah, I mean, Snyder, they'll probably – vote to get rid of him, but it might take 5 years for it to happen. And he'll probably die of natural causes before anything actually does happen. Or he'll be shot by an enraged employee. Jealous husband or whatever.
Yeah, a jealous husband or a boyfriend, maybe. But, Bill, I mean, what more do you think Irsay's waiting to see? I mean, this is a guy that I mean, he. Well, should we go to Jeff Saturday?
Okay,
should we talk about Saturday? Should we talk about Matt Ryan? I mean,
Yeah. So Dan Snyder has done some of everything. It's like the old joke about the guy in town who broke 9 out of the 10 commandments, and the only one he didn't break was just didn't know how to make graven images. The the thing about a guy like Dan Snyder is, okay, he created this sort of wild frat party atmosphere in the front office for many years. And I won't name some names, but I know some names of some of the people that were part of that. And it was wild. And it was not a safe place to be a woman. Then you add to that just the brutal disrespect of the fan experience, literal sewage sometimes dripping down onto the fans. You add to that his attempts to quote unquote placate the Native American community, including the Snyder Foundation, which gave scholarships for essentially 1.5 years and then slowly but surely, quietly stopped offering these scholarships to Native American students. You thought I forgot, Don, didn't you? You thought I forgot, but I didn't. I mean, oh God. The list of things. And the thing I thought would finally get him in trouble is when the whole thing about like skimming money. I thought, okay, now he's going to finally feel the wrath. It's clear to me several things. One, being a rich guy in America changes everything, especially if you're spectacularly rich. Changes everything. Everything's different for you. That's one thing that I knew that already, but it's just a really stark reminder. Two, there's a genuine lack of spine in general amongst the other owners. I don't think they want, as the kids say, that smoke. And supposedly Snyder said, "I've got dirt on all of you as well." I don't know if he said that. It's a third-hand, piece of information, but it sounds like something Dan Snyder would say. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it'll take him dying or being assassinated or whatever it is Don said. I think what it will take is more information about exactly what he did regarding skimming money, and if he wriggles off the hook this time, if he's caught doing it again. I think that's what it would take, because that's the one thing that I think will finally get them moving. If it's clear that he's not sharing out money that's supposed to be shared to all the other franchises, because that's the kind of thing that they don't forget or forgive. Money.
The Bills and Cole Beasley say that they have resolved the issues as the team re-signs Cole Beasley. Now, I'm thinking, when a lot of people pick the Bills to go to the Super Bowl, but I look at the Bills and I look at Josh Allen, I look at their receiving core. Gabe, he hasn't turned into that second explosive wide receiver that we thought he was going to be. He's only had probably maybe 3 or 4 really good games as far as putting up statistics and catching touchdowns. You also look at the inability of the Bills' running game. Josh Allen being the
leading rusher. Yes.
So
out there, Cam Newtoning it all over the place. Yes.
So, what are your thoughts on the Bills re-signing Cole Beasley, and whether that is enough to get them back on track?
I mean, I don't know if Cole Beasley is the kind of player that is the quote unquote key to victory. I mean, that seems unlikely, but he is a very familiar face. He did not leave on good terms, as you might remember. Things were said, but they looked at their depth chart. They looked at what he can do, particularly, he's one of those really prolific, or was in the past, a really prolific slot receiver. So when you do have a guy like Diggs, and if you've got, even if Gabriel Davis isn't taking over games, his size, his height, weight, speed, and you send him, tearing up, one side of the field on a fade or a go, and then you've got Diggs on a deep over route or a post. Now, and you have Dawson Knox run, an angle route or out to the flat. Now the middle of the field is wide open for who? You guessed it, Cole Beasley. And he, say what you want about Cole Beasley. I do have some things I would say about Cole Beasley, give it the chance. But he is really good at working the middle of the field. That is undeniable. And whatever else I might feel about him and some of his things he said and done, he is a terrific reader of leverage. He really understands what defenses are doing. He finds that dead spot in zones as well as any receiver in the NFL.
Don, your thoughts on the Bills re-signing Cole Beasley?
Well, teams do what they do because they feel like they have to do it. I know that sounds kind of funny, but Cole Beasley, to be honest, I'd forgotten he was still in the league, to be honest. But
well, he wasn't in the league. They had to call him up.
Oh, well, there you go. So I don't know if he was just hanging around somewhere in a bar drinking beer, whatever, I don't know. And they said, hey, let's call this Cole Beasley. I always thought he was kind of an odd fellow. Mm-hmm. And but you know, if the Bills think they can help him, I mean that's their money, so you gotta go with that.
Now, Don, I gotta talk to you about your boy here now, you know, because we've had a lot of conversations about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh no.
But on his latest podcast, he was talking about his experiences with mushrooms as well as echinacea. I know I'm not pronouncing it quite right, but the other
ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, yeah, and you know, other drugs that he's taken so that he can face his fears and you know, realize that there's a journey to the other side. It's not just you know, closing your eyes and you know, leaving this particular plane, but you know, there are methods to this journey. You have to get a ticket, Don. There's certain things that you have to do in order for you to achieve these goals. Now, I'm you know, I will admit I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, but Don, if there was any other quarterback in this league that told you that he was taking mushrooms and LSD and these different drugs, do you think it would be, oh well, you know, I hope you have a pleasant experience, you know, not, you know, maybe you should take, you know, maybe you should do something in this cup before you play a game. I mean, you know, do you really want, you know, your quarterback trying to separate the lights between the receivers when he's throwing the ball? I mean, what's your thoughts on this whole Aaron Rodgers experience?
So let me just get this out of the way. Aaron Rodgers is the epitome of everything that Texans think about people from California. No offense, James, but you're not a real Californian. You're like from the Pennsylvania area, right? Ohio.
Yeah.
So you're a Midwesterner at heart. But the fact that Aaron Rodgers went to Cal Berkeley and that he's smoking dope and dropping mushrooms and all that stuff, it's just it's California. You know, where, you know, I mean, California, I've been there twice. It's a nice place to visit. No way I could live there. I'd go freaking crazy in California. I'd be reaching for my 4 or 5 on my hip, just walking down the streets. But, yeah, Aaron Rodgers he's like the Dr. Timothy Leary of quarterbacks. You know, he's a weirdo. And I said it. I've been saying it for the last 7 years on the show. He's a weirdo. He's a great quarterback. He's a weirdo. So that's my thoughts.
Bill, suppose Lamar Jackson came out and said, "Hey, you know, like I've been taking this tea. Me and my girlfriend's been drinking this tea, and we've been experiment with mushrooms and LSD. You think there might be a little kickback from the organization.
Well, there are many reasons why Lamar would not be able to do this and have everything just be hunky dory. There's still very much a dual, caste system in America, and the NFL is still part of America. But and what Don has said, a lot of what Don has said is very much true. But he is a kid from Gilroy, California, right? The garlic capital of the world, or something like that, if memory serves it correctly.
Yeah, yes.
You said garlic?
Yeah, the garlic capital of the world. That's right.
Gilroy, California.
Can you smoke garlic?
I mean, you can smoke anything if you want to badly enough, Don. You can smoke anything.
Little garlic mushroom saute, mushroom.
Now that you can do, but I don't know about smoking garlic. But you can do, but you can definitely do a mushroom saute. But
So he's dating a woman who is Wiccan, a well-known.
No, you said
you didn't know this?
Yeah, Blue Earth. You didn't know? Come on, Don.
Oh, fuck! I didn't know.
That's who he broke up with Dana for.
Yes, correct. Yes,
Danica.
Right.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
So yes, his current paramour is a fairly well-known practitioner of the old arts, and she's the one that has been guiding him on this new journey.
Oh shit!
And so he's been. Don is having way too much joy.
We're definitely at the dark for Don.
Yes. Oh yes.
Her name is Blue. Her name is Blue Earth, Don.
Blue Earth. Yeah.
And she's from California.
I don't know where she's.
Dancing naked around the tree.
Yes.
Probably has blue hair. Probably has a nose ring.
I don't know about her hair color, but she does have a nose ring.
She does have a nose ring. Yeah, and I mean, her name is Blue. I don't know whether you need the hair to go with it. But
she's probably a vegan.
Yes, that too.
But yeah, she actually you missed a girlfriend. So it was what's her name? The actress was after Danica Patrick.
She was the one that had problems with the family also. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Her name wasn't Amber Heard, was it?
No, not Amber Heard. She was in Divergent and what do you call it? A bunch of those movies. But yeah, so Miss Earth, she definitely was the person who also was behind his immunization process for COVID-19. Shailene Woodley was the actress, I remember. Shailene Woodley. So that was the one between Danica Patrick and Miss Earth. But yes, she was once known as Charlotte Bennett Brenneton, I think is what her name was before, was her birth name. And yes, she is a practitioner of the ancient arts of the healing and.
Does she shave her legs?
I can neither confirm nor deny the status of her legs
or her underarms.
I don't know. I am not privy to those details, Don. But she is she's the host of the Deja Blue podcast, in case you were wondering. She's a lifestyle blogger. And like I said, practicing Wiccan, and she's been helping him with his
Spirituality, shall we
yes,
say? Yeah, yes.
right, internal healing, spirituality,
All of that good stuff.
all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. Bill, uh, I want to talk about the Don's favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. Uh, 11. It seems like 11 from Heaven has been talking more about the Philadelphia's Eagles system and how that has been more beneficial to their 12-1 season than the play of Jalen Hurts. And of course, a certain left tackle from the Eagles said that maybe he should think about his own team. I'm thinking that this is going to be a very good matchup this Sunday, and I'm wondering, whether how the Eagles are going to game plan for Michael Parsons. But do you think it's a wise thing to give the Eagles, the team with the best record in pro football, bulletin board materials?
Well, breaking news, Don. This just in. No, it is not wise. My guess is they're going to try to get him sort of whipped up into a frenzy and then screens. Get him, invite him upfield, and throw screens behind him. That sure is like what I would do. I think they'll also run some, to his side, but he's actually a pretty good run defender. And he even, drops into coverage at times and doesn't look bad at times, doesn't look bad doing it. He's just a great all-around athlete. And he could probably play all but maybe one or two positions on defense. He's incredibly versatile. He's super talented. He's a budding superstar. But a lot of this is new to him. He's his second year in the league. I don't think he quite understands that once you write that check, you're now making all of your teammates cash it. Dallas has enough talent; they can play with anybody. I just don't like their chances, particularly against this team, the Eagles, because one, the Eagles have so many answers, right? They can run the ball well enough between the zone read option stuff and conventional run game with Miles Sanders that you can't just try to take away the pass. And if you do, the second you bring that player down into the box to stop the run, boom, right? Either they get Arthur Brown Jr. or the Slim Reaper, Devontae Smith over your head. It's just and then on defense, to me, that's the heart and soul of the team is their defense. They have playmakers at every level of their defense. I just feel like it's a tough matchup for anybody, but this is a team that can take away the things that make Dallas dangerous and force them to play, left-handed, as they say, like to do the things they don't like to do. They can make you try to beat them with something that isn't your best weapon. So Michael Parsons will still get his, right? Because he's Michael Parsons. He'll get some tackles, maybe a tackle for loss, maybe even a half a sack or maybe a whole sack, but they won't give him the chance to take the game over.
What's your thoughts on that game, Don? The Eagles against the Cowboys.
I think it'll be a true humdinger. I was not very bullish on the Cowboys this year, just because they've let their fans down. But the Cowboys are actually, I think they're peaking at the right time. Philly is tough, though. I mean, I don't see them beating Philly. I see this will be one of those games that might go overtime, but I think it'll be must-watch TV for sure. The rivalry is too big.
Yeah, I definitely believe you there, and I think that the Cowboys are looking too far ahead. That game, if that Sunday game is any if that's any show of what's in the Cowboys' head, they better go back and do a little reevaluation. Don, do you think that Tua and the Dolphins are going to bounce back after consecutive losses?
Who are they playing this week?
Let's see. I'm getting ready to ask you the predictions here pretty soon.
I mean,
They're,
if they're playing,
they're playing the Bills.
no, they're not going to bounce back. If you had said the Texans or the Cardinals or something, yeah, but no.
No, they're playing at the Bills.
Oh no, it's gonna be cold as hell up there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Got an Arctic blast coming down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you concur, Bill?
I think that they'll play a good game, but I mean, if by bounce back you mean win, no.
Well, that's what it would mean. Bounce back after consecutive losses would be a win, right?
Well, I mean, or just play better. I mean, that last game, yuck. Like that was the first time I saw them just on both sides of the ball look like they did not have a good plan. They didn't, or the plan was maybe excellent because I couldn't tell because it was so poorly executed. I guess pick one, but their run game was virtually non-existent. And then Tua was making terrible decisions. Their offensive line didn't play well. Their defense gave up too many third downs. I mean, it's hard to find a positive from last week. I'm convinced they will play better than that. But no, win, no.
Jim, we're going to play a game called Either, Neither, or Both. And I'm going to give you two names, and you tell me whether either guy is going to end up with this team, neither guy is going to end up with this team, or both of these guys are going to end up with this team. And I'm going to make the first one kind of easy. Okay. So, Don, Baker Mayfield, and Matt Stafford. Do either of them end up with the Rams next year? Do neither of them end up with the Rams next year? Or do both of them end up with the Rams next year?
I think Stafford will be there. I don't think Baker Mayfield will be. Is that the rules of the game? Can I go
either?
Yeah. If you're going to go either, you can say either. If you're going to go neither or both, okay. So you're saying that you think that Stafford will be there.
I think they'll take Stafford again, and Baker may not play another down in the NFL. I don't know.
Well, he'll be playing another one Sunday.
Exactly.
So he'll be playing at least one.
He's going to finish out the. I mean, Faye already announced he's finishing out the year.
Yeah. Well, as long as he stays upright. So that's another thing also. Bill, your thoughts? Baker Mayfield or Matt Stafford? Either, neither, or both?
I'm going to go either, but I'm going to go the opposite of Don, and not just to be contrary. I think that they're going to try to start rebuilding. They have a lot of older and more expensive players on the team. If they can move Stafford and get back draft picks, they're going to do it. Despite the whole F them kids or F them picks or whatever it was statement from Les Snead, he now sees that as his team gets older and more expensive, he's got to make a change in the way this team is constructed. And Baker is going to be on a, I think, lower money prove it deal as his fifth-year option has not been picked up. While Stafford is making, not top of the market money, but above the median line. And now, while people would have gone crazy if you try to get rid of him the year after winning the Super Bowl, now a year removed at a team that clearly needs to add more young talent, you can now move on from him. Welcome to the Colts or whatever, whoever. But in exchange for picks, I think they're going to try and unload him. I mean, okay. I think all their quarterbacks might see the market, but I think that the one that has the strongest trade market is probably Stafford, and Baker Mayfield's cheaper.
Okay. Either, neither, or both, Bill. Zach Wilson, Mike White. with the Jets?
I guess the answer once again for me is either. Well, actually, it's probably both because they can't unload Wilson and he's still on his rookie deal. So unless somebody is willing to trade for him, and I don't think right now anybody is, and why would you get rid of Mike White? I mean, if they make the playoffs, it's at least not all, but partially because of Mike White. I think they'll have an open. So I'm gonna go with both. I think they'll have an open quarterback competition come the next fall, and best man will win. But yes, I think both.
Don, Zach Wilson, Mike White, either, neither, or both with the Jets.
I'll go with either.
Which one?
I think Zach.
Okay. Geno Smith or Drew Luck with the Seahawks, Don? Either, neither, or both?
I think they'll go. I think they'll hang with Geno Smith.
Bill?
So that's either, I guess.
That's
Yeah, same question, same answer for me either. And I too think that the at least immediate future at the quarterback position for them is going to be Geno Smith, unless he gets hurt. I think he's their starter for this year, next year, and maybe even the year after that.
Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston with the Saints, Bill.
I'm going to say neither for this one. I think that Jameis has a chance to hang around because he did sign a cheaper deal. But once again, that's another team that's basically blowing it up and starting over from the basement, from foundation pouring. And I think they're going to draft a quarterback. And they'd hope, they'll need a bridge. Ian Book might be doing that for slightly above veteran minimum, maybe. But it doesn't make much sense to keep both and draft, the young future guy. And I think they want to draft their young future guy, and like I said, keep, a bridge. But I don't know if Jameis is quite cheap enough to be a bridge quarterback, maybe. So, yeah, maybe I guess that gives Dalton a chance to be kept as a bridge. But I'm going to say neither.
Don?
I'll go with Bill too. Neither. I think they'll keep Taysom Hills, just to do what he does. But I can see them going after someone like what's his name, Max Duggan from TCU. I think that'd be a good fit for them. So, or maybe.
Don't forget Jimmy G's going to be out there now.
That's true. Jimmy, yeah.
Don, Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi with the Patriots?
I think they'll stick with Matt Jones.
You don't think Bill will go back? Bill, you don't think Bill will go and get his guy Jimmy G? He wanted to keep him before over Tom.
Yeah, he did, but that was then, and this is now. I do think that Michael McCorkle-Jones and Bailey Zappi end up being kept, and sort of like what I said before about the situation with the Jets. I think it'll be a full-on quarterback competition, and they'll go with whoever looks better.
Bill, Rashmandi Stevenson or Damian Harrison with the Pats?
Oh, Ramondre Stevenson. Younger, cheaper, better, bigger, faster. Where do I stop? More durable. Like all the things you want in a running back, Ramondre Stevenson is closer to it than is Damian Harris.
You agree with that, Don?
I do.
Okay, Don, Russell Wilson or Coach Hackett with the Ponies, a.k.a. the Broncos?
Wilson or who?
Or Nathaniel Hackett, their coach.
Oh. God, I read an article today about something Russell Wilson said, and it was just kind of bizarre stuff. I'm going to say neither.
What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I can give you a few million reasons why it's going to be Russ. They can't unload him. you can't sit a guy making that much money. You can't. I mean, you literally cannot. And if the feeling is that maybe Hackett, I won't say broke him, but is part of why he looks this bad, it's easy to fire a coach. I won't say easy. I mean, rephrase that. But it's much more feasible to fire the coach because you could hire 10 NFL head coaches, which you're going to have to pay Russ next year. So, yes, I think it's very much going to be Hackett who's gone. So, yes, the answer is either, and they're holding on to Russ. They have to. They can't get rid of him.
Here's a very interesting scenario, Bill. Elijah Mitchell or Brock Purdy with the 49ers?
I'm going to say both. I think Mitchell comes back, as the backup to McCaffrey because you don't bench McCaffrey unless he's hurt. So, Elijah Mitchell comes back and is the second, banana or whatever term you're going to use for at least a year, and then maybe he leaves after that in free agency. But I think he spent at least one more year behind McCaffrey.
And you think Brock Purdy stays with the 49ers? You don't think he gets another look by somebody else?
Well, he's still on his rookie deal.
Yeah,
I mean, how would he get a look? I mean, they have him under contract, man.
Well, I mean, but hey, you got Trey Lance under contract.
Sure.
That's
and guess
going to
what?
be coming out there.
You can't have him either unless you want to make a deal. Like they're under contract. They have those guys. They are under contract.
Yeah.
So, and they're on cheap contracts. So there's no reason to have to move on from them. Once again, I think it'll be an open competition, and the best quarterback wins.
Okay. What's your thoughts on that, Don?
I think they'll both be there. I think Brock Purdy is I've seen that kid play, when he's at Iowa State. I've seen him in Austin at least twice. And the kid's a gamer. I think he was a steal of the draft, the very last guy taken. He might be the future in San Francisco. So I'm going to say they're both going to be there next year.
Yeah. Score right now is 21-6. Fourth quarter's just started. 13 minutes left in the third quarter, and they're starting 2nd and 10 on their own 1. So if Seattle has a chance to get back in this game, it might be right here. McCaffrey just picked up a few yards. Let's see. Don, Michael Gallup and James Washington with the Cowboys.
I don't know if James Washington has found his permanent place yet. In time's kind of he's been in the league a few years. Time's kind of running on him, and I don't see him ever being a primary target for Dak. But I'll say Gallup will stay, but not Washington.
Bill?
So the question was James Washington
or Michael Gallup?
I would assume it's going to be Gallup. I mean, James Washington's a fun piece, unless it's a money situation. I have to look back at the Cowboys cap. But unless they literally cannot afford to hold on to Gallup, either, I guess, is following the rules of the game. Either, but I believe it'll be Gallup.
Bill, J.D. McKissick or Antonio Gibson with the Commanders?
Oh, this is a fun one. I think Gibson, because they have a lot of commonalities in their skill set, but Gibson is bigger, stronger, and faster, and younger, and I think still cheaper. So those are all things that the management likes.
Don, J.D. McKissick or Antonio Gibson with the Commanders?
I'll say both.
Okay. Don, Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins with the Packers.
I think Cobb stays for sure. I'm not sold on Sanders. I'll say both.
Bill?
Okay. And the The second one was,
Sammy Watkins.
yeah, Sammy Watkins that's an easy one. He's definitely goner. And the first one was,
Randall Cobb.
oh, I think they're both gone. Yeah, both.
Okay. All right. All right, guys, let's get down to our predictions here. Week 14. So, Don, uh, the 49ers, we already know how that turns out. The 49ers were giving the Seahawks 3.5. Right now, they're ahead 21-6, as I said, with almost 11 minutes left in the game. So, Don, the Geldings, aka the Colts, getting 4.5 at the Vikings.
I'll go Vikings on that one.
The Ratbirds, Don, giving the Clowns 2.5, and they're playing in Cleveland.
I'll go with the Browns.
Oh, okay. Bill, the Colts against the Vikings and the Ratbirds against the Clowns.
Vikings and the Ravens.
The Vikings are giving 4.5, and the Ravens are giving 2.5.
Yep, I'll stick with my predictions.
Okay. The Bills, staying with you. The Dolphins getting 7.5 at the Bills.
Okay, so the Bills are giving 7.5
to the Dolphins.
Who we talked about earlier, where it would not be a bounce back game. I will agree with what we said. It's not going to be a bounce back game, and I think it's going to go the way of the Raven. Way of the
the Bills.
Bills.
Yeah, they're going to. So 8 points or better.
I think they'll be able to cover it. Yeah.
Okay. The Falcons getting 3.5 at the Saints, Bill.
The number was what again?
3.5.
Huh. I mean, neither team is good. It's going to be a hard watch, but I don't trust either of them to cover. So I will say Atlanta, because I don't think the Saints are going to beat them by 3.5.
Okay. Don, the Dolphins getting 7.5 at the Bills.
I'll take the Bills.
The Falcons getting 3.5 at the Saints.
I'll take the Saints in that one. It's at New Orleans, right?
Yep. It's at New Orleans. Okay. Don, the Eagles giving the Bears 8.5 at the Bears.
I'll take the Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Okay. Don, the Lions, a 0.5 favorite over the Jets at the Jets.
I'll take the Jets.
Okay. Bill, the Eagles, 8.5 over the Bears at the Bears.
Yes. I think what was the line?
8.5.
Oof. It's a little more that helped. I will stick with the Eagles, but be a lot more nervous about it than I would have been.
The Lions, 0.5 favorites over the Jets at the Jets.
The number was 5.5?
Nope. 0.5.
Oh, 0.5. Oh. And they're playing
at the Jets.
At the Jets. So the Jets are getting 0.5?
The Jets are getting a 0.5 point from the Lions.
Oh, this game is driving me crazy. Just so I have a regular way of knowing, I'm going to go with the British kid. I'm going to go with The what? The Jets. No, wait, not the Jets. The wait, it's at
It's at the Jets.
yeah. I'll take the Jets.
Okay. Bill, the Steelers giving the Panthers 2.5 at the Panthers.
Well, obviously I'm biased, but I will say Steelers because they're starting to sort of find who they are on both offense and defense.
Bill, the Cowboys giving the Jags 2.5. I mean 4.5 at the Jags.
And they're where? Playing at where?
Jaguars.
Bengals, Jaguars, and I'm going to go Jaguars.
Oh, okay. Don, the Steelers giving the Panthers 2.5 at the Panthers.
Ooh, that's an ugly game. You know what? Just for you, James, I'll take the Steelers.
Okay. The Cowboys giving the Jaguars 4.5. Don.
Cowboys.
Don, staying with you. The Chiefs giving the Texans 14.5 at
What
the
is it?
Texans.
14?
14.5. Not just 14, but 14 in the hook.
You know, Texans showed some fire for a crappy team last week, but I'll go Chiefs.
Let's see. I think okay. Don, the Cardinals getting a 0.5 point, 0.5, playing the Broncos at the Broncos.
I'll go Cardinals.
All right. Bill, the Chiefs 14.5 over the Texans. Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. 14.5.
They're testing me with this, James. And they're playing this game at
The Texans.
well, not that it'll really matter, but yeah, I wouldn't normally do this, but I do think that they will cover, so I will not be picking the Texans, though it haunts me.
Okay. The Cardinals getting a 0.5 point from the Broncos at the Broncos.
Once again, things I didn't think I'd hear myself ever say, but I think I will be going with the Broncos. I think the Broncos are figuring some things out. Plus, they're going to simplify their offense to accommodate Brett Ripken.
Yeah. Plus, Kyler Murray's out, right?
Also correct.
Yeah. Let's see. Bills, the Patriots getting a 0.5 point from the Raiders, playing at the Raiders.
Was that directed towards Don?
Nope, that's connected towards you.
Oh, it's me. Okay. And the line was 3.5?
The line was let's see, what we're talking about the Patriots, right? The Patriots and the Raiders, a 0.5 point.
Oh, okay. Pointing it. Ugh. I'll go with the Raiders.
Okay. Sticking with you, Bill. The Titans giving the 6 votes Chargers 3.5, playing at the Chargers.
Okay. And they're playing at the Chargers too, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the Chargers.
Okay. Let's see. Bill, did we start off? I mean, Don, did we started the Pats, right?
Yes.
Okay. The Pats getting 0.5, 0.5 point from the Raiders, playing at the Raiders.
I'll go Raiders on that one.
Okay. The Titans giving the Chargers 3.5. at the Chargers.
I will go Chargers.
And Don, the Bungles getting 2.5 at the Bucks.
Ooh, yeah, I'll go with Cincy. The Bucks are terrible.
Okay. And the Giants, Don, getting 4.5. Excuse me, giving 4.5 to the Commanders, playing at the Commanders.
I'll go Commanders. Just for home field advantage.
Okay. Bill, where do we start? Okay, the Bungles and the Bucks. The Bungles 2.5 point favorites over the Bucks. 2.5 point dogs. Bucks favored by 2.5.
I will go. It's in Tampa Bay. Is that Tampa?
Yep.
Here's your bounce back game. I think it's a bounce back game for Tampa Bay.
Okay. The Giants getting giving 4.5 to the Commanders at the Commanders. Bill?
Yes.
Yeah. The Giants getting 4.5 at the Commanders.
Oh, give me Washington.
And the Monday night matchup, the Rams getting 7.5 from your fearless leader, the Packers. Bill?
I think the Packers do pull a miracle cover here, but that game's going to be close all the way through. And then, I don't know, maybe a ball gets poked out, strip sack, interception. Something happens to give the ball to them. They get a late score, but I just have a feeling it's going to be a struggle throughout.
Okay. Don, Monday night game, the Rams getting 7.5 from the Packers.
Well, I think this game goes in overtime, and I'm pretty sure that the Blue Earth will cast some kind of spell and cause the Pack to win. So I'll go with the Wiccan.
You're
spells.
You're having fun with this, aren't you, Don?
Blue Earth.
Hey, Don, good having you back. As I had noted, next week will be our last show before the new year, and then I think we'll be back. What did I say? January 6th, I believe it is. Let's see. Next week, the 22nd. That'll be our last show for the year, and we will return on January the 5th. Don, your final thoughts for the evening, and I guess we'll see you next week for our New Year's and Christmas show.
Yeah. So my final thought is, we don't really cover it, but it's let's say the elephant in the room. Texas coach Chris Beard got arrested for choking his fiance. This guy was on top of the world, 7-1, number 2 in the nation, and he just blew it big time. There's some speculation that that she wants to recant and say it didn't happen, but once you call the police and they see the bruises on the neck and all that, it's over. And I really like Chris Beard. I like the energy he brought back to Texas, but it looks like Texas will probably have to get a new basketball coach here pretty soon. So let that be a warning. No matter how angry you get, don't lay hands on a woman because it never ends well. That's my final thought.
In California, if the police are called, someone must leave the premises. Not sure how that works in Texas, but that's how it works out here.
Yeah.
Someone is going to spend the night not in the home. Might not necessarily be in jail, but not in the home. Uh, Bill, your final thoughts.
So, my final thought, and I think this is one maybe Don might enjoy. On this day in 1864, near Nashville, a group of troops of the 13th USCT, United States Colored Troops Regiment, broke the back of one of the last vestiges of the best chance for the South in the western part of the war, the Western theater, I guess you could call it, and resulted essentially in the collapse of the West. At that point, that was under Grant and Halleck, General Halleck and General Grant. Though Grant got most of and deserved most of the credit for that victory at West, and then he went from there. Left sort of Sherman to finish off the western part of the war, and took over the Army of the Potomac from George G. Meade. So fresh off of a victory of all things, and at Gettysburg, Meade nonetheless, that darn snapper and turtle, as people used to call George Meade, lost his position as the head of the Army of the Potomac, though he still served well through the remainder of the war. But these men, some of them free blacks, some of them former slaves, took more casualties than any other unit in that battle. And it was an instrumental battle. They served with distinction, despite the fact that they faced discrimination at all turns. They had to fight to get equal pay for their service. In many cases, their pension claims were delayed or denied later when they tried to collect their service pensions. But I think about, because every once in a while people say, oh, things are worse than ever before, things aren't improving or whatever. Well, the last I checked, there's never been a shackle on either of these. I have never been, I got a switch taken to my backside a few times, but not by anyone who owned me, unless you want to count your parents as your owners. I have never been denied the opportunity to write. I've never been denied the opportunity to, if I decide to pick up and leave, no one's been able to stop me. And it took not just an Emancipation Proclamation, but took hundreds of thousands of black soldiers, many of whom, like I said, weren't even citizens at the time because 13th Amendment hadn't happened, but fought and died in large numbers, and very often numbers out of proportion to their numbers. If you look at Fort Pillow and the massacre there, you look at the Battle of the Crater in Fort Donaldson, and of course, here, a much more successful campaign in Nashville. And so there's lots of people who say, there's no reason for black men to fight, or black soldiers, black people, whatever they are, to fight for this country because of all the things this country has done to us instead of doing things for us. And what I say to that is, one, this is my country, and sometimes, in many ways, more than most white people. My family can trace its time here to sometime before 1790. We don't know how much before, but there's a specific mention of one of my relatives who had managed to make his way almost to Baltimore, Maryland, before being apprehended and brought back to Virginia, and described there as a burly Negro. And I love that description. But so I've been here, in terms of my family, longer than most white people. And while we spent a lot of that time just trying to get off the plantation, we did a lot on the plantation. And those plantations could not and would not have succeeded, would not and could not have run without our talent and our skills and our abilities, despite the fact that it's people saying, we didn't contribute and that we were lazy. There's nothing but the success of the slavery system to prove that that's a lie. But more importantly, when I think about those men who got up the morning of the 15th of December to finish off this extremely important battle in the Western theater of the Civil War, they weren't thinking about strategy or tactics. They were thinking about the fact they were going to go kill white men. Now, admittedly, that could be a motivation unto itself. But it wasn't just a chance to go kill white men. But think about how many of them were former slaves and what they'd been through. And to, in a short period of time, to now be wearing the uniform of the United States Army and be trained to go out and face whatever comes in battle, and to prove to those that doubted them that they could not just hold their line, but press forward and be responsible for turning the tide of battle. They were responsible in the final charge that ended the battle. In the front, in the very vanguard of that was the 13th United States Colored Troops. That is my final thought on this day.
Well, hey, like I said, next week will be our last show for 2022. Hopefully we'll get Jeffrey in, and I'm not sure where Spencer is right now. I know he's still has a lot of tremendous renovations to do all down through Alabama, Mississippi, Florida. So it's a big job in progress. By the way, while I have both of you here, Don, what's your availability like on a Wednesday?
Ooh,
Better or worse?
I'd say about the same.
What
Either
about,
neither, or both.
what about you, Bill?
You're in luck. Now, I do a Wednesday show for Nuts and Bolts Sports. No huddle necessary every Wednesday.
Okay.
But we're taking our hiatus until the January the 6th, whatever. I think that's the date.
The reason why I was asking you is due to the availability of Demetrius, and Wednesday is a day that he does have a caretaker for his wife, and he would be much more. It would be much more accessible for him, and I was just wondering, but
Hey, for Demetrius, move it to Wednesday. I'm good. I'll be there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll discuss everything with him, and we'll see what we can do about that. I do miss having cornbread and Kool-Aid. So
we sure do. We sure do.
All right, guys.
Thinking about your family and praying hard always for you and your family, Demetrius.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. So we'll see if we can make that happen. But in the meantime, enjoyed spending a few hours with everybody, and I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.